When you think about a traditional wedding, you probably imagine the long white gown, a nervous groom, and the true love that binds them together. However, as you gaze around the world, you can see that this is not always what traditional weddings look like. In fact, in India, weddings and marriages look a lot different than they do in the United States. As we get older, marriage becomes more of a reality for us. Some of you are in committed relationships, and others of you aren't far off, so it's interesting to learn about different marriages and weddings. When I first started college, I had a large interest in learning about different cultures, especially the Indian culture. After reading a few articles and watching a few films, I now think that I have a good understanding of the Indian culture that I would like to share with you. After this speech, I hope that you understand Indian marriages and weddings. It is important to understand different cultures and how different people do things to have a greater global understanding, especially in the globalized society that we live in today. Throughout this speech, I will discuss the role of Hinduism in mate selection, arranged marriages, and the wedding rituals that take place in a traditional Indian wedding. Today, 80.5% of India's population is Hindu, which means Hinduism plays a large role in Indian marriages and in mate selection. There are many ways to acquire a spouse in the Indian tradition. 8 key ways that are laid out by Hinduism include Brahma, Daiva, Arsha, Prajapatya, Asura, Rakshasa, Paisacha, and Gandharva. The first 4 are in a subgroup called Dharmaya, which means that they are distinctly defined by religion and are 4 types of arranged marriages. The bride is given away to the groom with a gift. The next, Asura, requires the bride being given to the husband's family with a bride price so that they will accept her. Rakshasa requires the abducting of a girl so that she can be taken as a man's wife. And Paisacha requires the seduction of the girl so that she'll be his wife. Finally, Gandharva is a marriage based on mutual love and respect, so 2 people basically want to get married, so they do. All these methods are used today, and there's no significant data on the popularity of each. However, the first 4 are the most common and the most maintained ways to acquire a spouse in India. The next 3 are more controversial, and in some parts of India are even illegal, but they are still practiced. Gandharva is practiced, but less frequently, but it is the one that we are most common with, from being from America. In review, the 8 ways to acquire a spouse, as according to Hinduism, are Brahma, Daiva, Arsha, Prajapatya, Asura, Rakshasa, Paisacha, and Gandharva. Initially, when I looked at the topic, I thought one of the main differences between my conception of marriage and the Indian conception of marriage would be the love that is behind it. One stereotype of Indian marriages is that they are all arranged, and upon researching, I found that 90% of those marriages actually are arranged. We will discuss the high frequency of arranged marriages and the small role that love plays in mate selection. I used to think that arranged marriages were forced, but according to a study, 75.6% of parents actually want their sons and daughters to approve of the people that they choose for them. Also, Indians buy into the arranged marriage system because they believe that their spouse is predestined. The family is given the responsibility of finding the spouse for their child because they are seen as more responsible. Love plays a small role initially in Indian marriages. It is not a main quality when pursuing a spouse because it is often said to cloud one's judgment when trying to find a suitable suitor. Other qualities are more important, like education, religiousness, or socioeconomic status. Love is to be fostered over time within marriage, but is not an initial indicator of what marriage should be based on. In review, most marriages in India are arranged, with love playing a small part in mate selection. Continuing, the enchanting rituals of an Indian wedding are intricate and unique. Listen as the beautiful Indian wedding music plays. Also called Vivah, traditional Indian weddings are known for grand, graceful, colorful celebrations. There are pre-wedding and actual wedding ceremonies that take place in a traditional Indian wedding, which we will discuss. The first 2 are the pre-wedding rituals, Piti and Mendi. Piti involves rubbing a paste on the bride and the groom's face, and that is done for good luck. Mendi involves the women of the bride's family to all get together the night before the wedding and do henna tattoos on each other. Now, in the actual wedding ceremonies, these are done to combine the bride and the groom and their families. The groom arrives during Barat, a festive procession. The bride's family meets the procession in Milni. The families embrace, and the bride's family escorts the groom to the altar. In Ganesh Puja, the ceremony started with prayer to Lord Ganesh, and the Kanya Agaman is the arrival of the bride, who is then escorted to the altar by some of her family members. Jaimala is when the bride and groom meet at the altar and exchange garlands with one another. The bride is given away during Kanyadan and Hasta Milak. The bride's father actually pours water into the bride's hand takes her hand and puts it in the groom's hand to signify that he is giving his daughter away. The priest lights a sacred fire in Vivah Havan, and the bride and groom walk around that sacred fire 7 times to show the synchronization of their aspirations, and that is called the Mangal Fear. Next, in Saptapadi, the couple takes 7 steps together, taking sacred vows with each step. Finally, the blessing for the married couple is done by the women in both families in Ashirvad, and the bride says her final goodbye to leave and go with her groom in Vidai. In review, the 2 wedding and 12 wedding ceremonies complete the traditional vivah. Throughout this speech, we discussed the influence of Hinduism on mate selection, arranged marriage, and rituals of the wedding ceremony in India. It is vital to look at other cultures and learn from them, especially in the globalized world we live in today. Indian marriages and weddings are just 2 examples of how different cultures can be. Remember to look outside of what you know to see the beauty in the world around you.